Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Any part of the world on a day. This is Mohammed Shilon coming from the USA. Today, Sunday, July 16.
April,
As usual.
April 16th, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm way ahead. April 16. I don't know where my mind is. I'm way ahead of my time. Yeah, thanks for the correction. Yeah, so the talk on certain topics. Then today we'll get two main topics. Uh, And as usual, Miko is going to introduce himself. But we'll get two main topics that we'll be dealing with today. The two topics are one, get for deal with the fake degree, fake academic degrees that Parliament may get a special committee headed by Dr. Yumkela for do some investigation and make recommendation. And so I think some recommendations or findings were made, and there were certain things recommended. So we could touch on that for see how wise, how practical, and how necessary some of the recommendations they are, and in fact, if they go produce useful results. Then we also get the special investigative committee for the August 8th, 9th, 10th demonstration of last year, where then do, where Amnesty International also touch on, where the Sierra Leone government appoint a committee for touch on. So we will, watching at them findings, we will deal with that also. We will deal with them two main topics because they are of national significance or importance. So now, as usual, I just want to give with regular numbers, then with a rich way, and when the various numbers, then we're there on WhatsApp, we're there on Instagram, we're there on Facebook. So and we'll get certain numbers, toll-free numbers. Now 1-866-944-7722. 1-866-944-7722. If you're calling from the United Kingdom, the number will be plus 44 20 80 89 1455. Again, plus 44 20 80 89 1455. If you're calling from Australia, it will be plus 61 2909 83 84 337. Again, from Australia, it will be plus 61 2909 84 337. And if you're calling on a WhatsApp line and you're within the United States or outside the United States, it will be 343 997 5828. 343 997 5828. So, as usual, the lines will be open almost instantly when we begin for make a presentation. So, guys, don't wait until we announce, say, the lines are open. Feel free to call. And we understand the nature of this broadcast or this broadcasting, and that is usually participatory presentation. You wanna call in is live, so it's being live streamed. So whatever one of the area now is going on live. So you can call in, make suggestions, contributions by way of ideas, ask questions. And of course, we get basic rules that we not need for the announce all the time. And that's the thing about mutual respect. Respect callers or fellow callers. Respect the host. The host, in turn, are bound to respect callers. So as long as we operate in the atmosphere of mutuality of respect, I think we all we go learn from each other and be thankful about the discourse. Finally, and I also say I always do this show with a co-host, Mr. Victor Mengot. So I turn it over to Ramey, introduce himself, then he go tell which topic we start with today. Mr. Mengot, over to you.
Yes, Mr. Shilon, thank you very much. And Mifambulem, in a good evening, in a good afternoon, or good night, wherever you are today. Usual me, Victor Akot, a Sierra Leonean based in the UK, and somebody with some experience in governance and institutional development. So that's the angle I will be supporting my co-host here, because the main topics today now this special investigation committee report we will just see, and some of the recommendations not just deal with the aftermath of the riots or demonstration or whichever you call it, but it also talks about institutional lapses in the system. I would like to look at the recommendations of the various institutions, waiting the report say, and then we go rub 2, 3 penny there for say, well, even when they report here, they make their recommendation. There is no timeline as to when they for implement the recommendation. There is no leader or lead organization for implementing. So as usual, our concern is that these recommendations should not follow the usual pattern of presentation to the president and then media frenzy for a week or two, and then everything is swept under the carpet until another occurrence. And some of these issues which were raised and recommendation are not new, because we will get the Truth and Reconciliation Committee report. We talk about the institutional lapses here, the role of the enforcement agencies, the judiciary, also the police, and also issues for dealing with the economy and citizens' rights to access justice and all that thing and day, because some of the recommendations they talk about speedy trial and all those things. So these are the things that we're going to talk about today. But now look into the report in detail and some of the things where it concludes, especially what we would like to look at the conclusion where they say this was an attempt to overthrow a legitimate government. That's, my friend on the legal side, will actually dissect that, and then they'll ask the question, was that the purpose? So, now that, but before we go further, I think technical team get a video we'll go play when this report was presented to the president. So we'll start from there and analyze what was said at the time, then move on to the recommendations.
I'm not the talker. This Soja Adenaya, I was elected to come here. The time we have been used ammunition for Kanaya, it don't pass. Anybody where you say the Kanaya, if already. That one, I don't tell them it's Monday when I'm not been there. I don't tell them. I have the right to self-defense. If you left Sudan, then go kill you. You have nowhere to complain. If you come protest, there is a civilized way to protest. You can sing the whole day. I go past you, sir. Where I go, New York. We had huge people then. They say, me they cut throat Naya every morning. They team up on the road. The APC. Awaka. Before then, I go to the SLPP. After then say, now we country with the poor. I see picture of them, you don't know how they pull them. Blood, they all over people them face. They say, they pluck their eye, did they do this? Now that's with the show, not the world. That if not for politics, we don't clear the road. First time we get for big, for me and tell we election date. We don't give it 4 or 5 months ago. Everybody know election date. You want for change matter bill, you have June 24th. Anybody, you don't need for protest. Then go forgive you ballot. So waiting happened is completely unacceptable. Investigate. We will use the full force of the law. under my watch, anybody you break the law, it is incumbent upon me to follow you even to the grave. When I'm not there, I will go sit down. I had enough people behind me to cause chaos in this country when I was in the opposition. But I never went on the street. I never incited them. I never told them, we now come on and do this, broke this, kill this posse, with the get fambu there, where the overseas who all know. So man they sponsor them, then they cost my because it's like mama woman not in the world. I believe in this country. I have fought for this country. I'm ready to do everything, and I'm ready to defend this nation. So the one day where they do this, I'm not going to see a different matter bill. We will defend where this happened. Peace-loving people that will not get nothing for do. Will not be they go about defend. They need for go out every day. They are locked up in their houses. The majority of this country was at peace that day. The majority, people them all over. Now, a small group of people, we hold about them, we come out, Kamakuye Kanaya. How they got here, nobody. Now, teenagers, paid for, come. Now the parents they look for. You can't take them to the police station. How can we?
All the members, I now invite the chair of the committee for a statement and presentation of the investigation report. Thank you very much. Mr. President, His Excellency, Brigadier Retired the Inspector General of Police, the advisors to the President, members of the committee itself, members of the 4th Estate, good afternoon. It is my duty today to present to you the reports of the Special Investigation Committee that was set up by the President, His Excellency, to look into the protests that sprouted from various parts of Sierra Leone between August 8th to the 10th, which caused the disturbance of peace and stability in the country. His Excellency the President, after the appointment of the Special Investigation Committee, the committee set itself up to undertake various activities. But before I proceed to that, as has been introduced, the committee is made up of various individuals from various institutions of government, civil society, and other professional bodies. The task of the committee was to investigate the organizers of the protest, the planners, the funders of the protest, and most importantly, to make recommendations to the government on actions that will prevent the reoccurrence of such incidents. In order to do this, the committee set itself up to do this by a thorough methodology. This includes, firstly, visiting all the sites and areas where violence erupted in the country. This includes areas such as Bukloko, Lunsar, Kamakui, Makeni, Binkolo, Magboka, and some parts of the western urban and western rural areas. After that, the committee decided that it was important to triangulate the data that had been collected. So we decided to visit areas where incidents did not occur. This was primarily because we wanted to know whether some of the issues that had been reported in incidents, in places where incidents occurred, were not prevalent in places where incidents did not occur. So therefore, we visited Kono, Kenema, and Bo to represent some of the areas in the eastern region and southern parts of the country. The committee also requested for access to certain reports, including intelligence reports, studies, and other forms of secondary literatures that were reviewed to at least come to a conclusion based on what the intelligence sector knew. The information gathered from the investigation informed the committee's analysis and conclusion of what happened between the 8th and the 10th. And as a result of that, we have the following findings. On the security sector, Mr. President, the committee found that the security sector, we all know, is key in every contemporary world and any contemporary society. It is charged with the responsibility to protect lives and property. From the analysis that we made, the security sector was relatively prepared for the events leading to the violent demonstration of August 8th to 10th. It also came out that after receiving intelligence for months, the committee said and found out that most of the postures were reactive rather than proactive to forestall the infamous incident. It should also be noted that less than a week to the incident, the newly appointed Inspector General was just taking office, and also at the same time, the heads of the military were out of the country. The committee believed that this created vacuum in the leadership of the security sector. Furthermore, the security sector was challenged by the paucity of logistics, namely mobility, riot control equipment, communication assets, and manpower in many of the locations where these incidents took place. Disaggregating the narratives learned from interviews conducted, it will appear that the intelligence provided by the IIS of the Sierra Leone police was not enough and timely to support the police. Mr. President, we also note that we also know that the emergency military aid to civil power was invoked, and that also helped salvage the situation. At the subnational level, that is, the provincial and district security committees were established and they were in operation. And we also discovered that in some of the areas where the incident occurred, these committees were less effective. In areas where the incident did not occur, the committee came out to find that the intelligence committee were very active. Additionally, the Special Investigation Committee found that the police was high-handed before, after, and during the insurrection. The Special Investigation Committee also found that personnel and resources were insufficient and hindered the performance of their duty in an insurrection of this magnitude. Mr. President, when it comes to the issue of the criminal justice system, there were a lot of praises for the criminal justice system. A lot of people thought that a lot of reforms have taken place. There are now courts in every district. Magistrates are sitting down in every district and advocating. But there are complaints about the delay still in the dispensation of justice. For example, in Lonsar, it was reported that one of the reasons why people wanted to jump on the street was that some of the children who were arrested in another incident before this are still in detention and have not been charged or tried. It also came out, Mr. President, that some citizens believe that the criminal justice system is a regime serving and non-independent. In terms of the economy, Mr. President, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the projected economic growth for 2019 was at 4.8% from 3.8% in 2018. However, during COVID-19 pandemic, the country's economic growth dropped due to economic shock and interruption in the economic supply chain. Additionally, the war in Ukraine has compounded the economic hardship in most countries of the world, including Sierra Leone. Fuel and food prices have soared after affecting socioeconomic well-being. In all the areas visited by the committee, there was insistent complaints of economic hardship and food insecurity. Although the situation is not akin to Sierra Leone, the indications are that they may have genuinely contributed to the August 10th incident, with rogue politicians exploiting the reality of to their political advantage. In terms of the political dynamics, Mr. President, Sierra Leone is politically polarized along regional and ethnic lines. This is evident in the voting patterns of the last 4 election cycles. Most parts of the western area, the northwest and the northern regions are perceived as strongholds of the APC, while the south and eastern region are strongholds of the SLPP. Now, SIC found out that all the violent protests of August 10th took place in the perceived stronghold of the APC, and that parts and that apart from few placards carrying messages of economic situation in the country, one dominant message that resonated across all of these areas was that Maada Bio must go, to which the committee found that it could not have been coincidental. This is also reinforced by the timing and spontaneity of the protest, starting at around 6 a.m. to 900 hours in the affected areas. In all the hotspots, stakeholders shared names of politicians loyal to opposition who were providing guidance and support to the protesters. The Lunge fuel stations, the Kafugulong Chief Sisters, the APC office, the Makeni Councillor, the Magboka Kamakwe area, and video and transcript were available to this effect. There are also indications that the protests were politically motivated and they were well planned, organized, and executed in a coordinated manner. The SIG found that hate speech and tribal rhetorics in the build-up to the August 8 to 10 incident hugely contributed to creating the enabling environment for the protests to take place. As a president, on the issue of youth unemployment is widespread and affecting livelihood. It's affecting livelihood, tax revenue, decreasing development growth, and increasing social malaise, which include drug abuse, crime, and prostitution. According to the UNDP Development Index and other indices, Sierra Leone's youth unemployment rate stands at 60%. The existing social structures, which is family unit and community in the country, does not seem to be providing the requisite modeling for young people. This is compounded by demonstrable indiscipline, disregard for the rule of law, and flagrant disrespect for fundamental social norms and values. Reinforcing this further, large number of unemployed youth are a potential for insecurity as a result of their vulnerability. From the investigation, the SIG found out that through clientelism and patronage and employment, youth are recruited, trained, instigated, and financed to perpetrate violence and other forms of social unrest. Many of the youth engaged through focus group discussions lamented that graduates from various universities have not been able to gain any form of employment, while others said they lack technical and vocational education skills to enable them secure jobs, especially in agriculture, construction, tourism, and mining sector. Youth in the northern region of Sierra Leone claim that as long as the SLPP is in governance, they are marginalized from youth development programs. The committee's findings are that there were insistent complaints of youth unemployment and marginalization, substance abuse, economic hardship, and food insecurity. These are not justification for the level of violence that was perpetrated in the country. The indications are that they may have genuinely contributed to the August 8 to 10 incident, which rogue politicians exploited. So, President, on the issue of traditional authorities, and as you can see, this is something that Chief Fasulugu was very insistent on, that we have to look at the traditional authorities. Traditional authorities are central to the country's governance system, as they ensure that the government's policies and national laws are implemented at the local level. Paramount chiefs supervise their sections and town chiefs to ensure that there is law and order and peace and security in their chiefdom. The traditional structure played pivotal role in the successful fight against national health emergencies such as Ebola and COVID. However, the SIG found out that the authority of the paramount chiefs was tested during the August 8 and 10 protest. The paramount chiefs reported that the authority was eroded and their lives and that of their families threatened. They attributed this to the disconnect between them and the central government, as politicians now deal directly with subjects of their chiefdoms, which undermines their authority. Mr. President, in terms of communication, a key findings of the committee is that there's a huge communication gap between the governors and the governed. Engagement with youth, women, and traditional leaders and other stakeholders in all the areas visited for this investigation revealed lack of information about key governance issues that impact their lives. Furthermore, they informed the committee that the social interaction with government authorities to channel their grievances and frustrations are limited. Mr. President, the media is the next very important component that we're looking to. During the investigation, the SIG noted that the mainstream media were helpful in disseminating relevant information to the public and provided the platform for engagement between citizens and security sector, especially with community radios in the affected areas. There were no indications that they contributed in funding the protest. Unfortunately, in the east end of Freetown, 4 radio stations, namely Tumac, Justice, Citizens Radio, and Radio Tempo, were reported by residents in that area to the INC of broadcasting disturbing political messages before, during, and after the August 10 protest, of which the INC was swift to intervene to convene hearings. Social media, on the other hand, became the hub for the spread of insightful messages, hate speeches, disinformation, fake news, which all played a key part in the planning, organizing, and implementation of the August 8 to 10 incident. And it is important to note that one of the key players is someone under the aegis of Adebayo and the People's Power in politics. Mr. President, in terms of infrastructure, the SIG found out that the critical national infrastructures were the targets of the protesters, as typified by the violent attack on the Freetown International Airport in Lunge. It was disturbing that we found out that the protesters targeted the airport and planned to dig holes on the tarmacs. This was really very shocking to all of us. There was also the burning of numerous police stations and barracks located around the areas where the protest took place, and also government buses and other national transport infrastructures were burnt. It is therefore very imperative that critical national infrastructures are given extra security because of the type of politics that we play in the country. Protest killing. It was noted by SIG that based on the evidence that is available from the Sierra Leone police and the hospitals that 6 police officers and 21 civilians were killed in the insurrections. This is already well known. Mr. President, the telecommunications sector seems to be largely unregulated and are reported to be using outdated equipment that do not meet the standards of the contemporary telecommunication operations in the country. You may want to ask, how is this important? SIG found that it's impossible to trace monies that were transferred electronically for the organization of the insurrections. This is due to the fact that the National Telecommunication Authority does not have the capacity to monitor electronic activities conducted by the mobile network operators. Where it has such capacity, it is undermined by various interests within and out of government who are related and benefiting from the telecommunications company. The banks and money transfer businesses were also not helpful to SIG in providing information for financial transactions that may have been related to the insurrection. The international community. SIG found that the international community, that is the UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Association and Assembly, were sending conflicting messages that inflamed and aggravated the situation. Protesters used his tweet to claim that the international community was in support of the action to remove the sitting government. Several tweets and audios from the protesters speak to these claims. These messages give an impression that the international community was in support of the action of the protesters, despite the fact that the state was already under siege. This goes against international jurisprudence, which provides that the survival of the state takes precedence over rights during emergencies. The expectation is that all hands should be on deck to prevent a state of anarchy like what August 8 to 10 was unleashing on Sierra Leone. The government and its international partners should not be seen publicly disagreeing in a crisis situation of the magnitude of August 8 to 10. Finally, Mr. President, we have made quite an extensive number of recommendations on these issues, which I've highlighted there in the report. There's also a second report, which is for your eyes only, which I would kindly ask you to stay with us after everyone is left so we can discuss them with you. Those recommendations, we kindly ask that your government look into them. They are very key, particularly those that are dealing with communities and security issues. On this note, Mr. President, I want to thank you for appointing us to serve. As Sierra Leoneans, we have done our bit, and we ensured that we did this very dispassionately, with no interest. What we found, what we discovered, the issues that we did not discover, we did not report. What we found is what we reported. On behalf of the committee, Mr. President, I want to present to you the reports.
All right, Mr. Mengert, I think you can take over from this point on for some analysis of what we've just heard.
Well, for me, I would refer to the report that it has the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly incidents, which we all condemn as Sierra Leoneans, is the loss of lives, be it people who are entrusted to protect lives and property, those who are actually part of the demonstration, because it has three words. Some people call it demonstration, some people call it insurrection, some people call it protest. But then, if we go back to the report when it comes to that, the police, we know, is a force for good. There are good men and women in blue. I have had interactions with police officers, and some of them are dedicated citizens despite their shortcomings. The very report said that the police was high-handed before, during, and after the protest. Right? So it clearly says the police were high-handed. And it also resonates with the Amnesty report which came earlier on the same issue, that our police force are not trained to handle these sort of situations, and they urge that they did not use proportionate force in quelling. According to the government, it's an insurrection. According to others, it's a demonstration. So you see, there's a lot of confusion in the language to describe the incidents that took place. Another thing I found from the report is that the report rightfully suggested, that's a good part of it, that the police lack logistics, they lack transport, they don't have modern communication equipment to deal with some issues. Let us remember, the first audio or video we played was that from the president. We had to do this two in parallel to analyze his own view. And one of the things he said with the president, he said people can have peaceful protests, but in a lawful way. He even cited New York when there are people from both sides. He said he walked past through the APC side and went to his SLPP people and talked to them. People protested, but in a foreign land. And if we take from that incident there, in America, law and order is kept by the police. I'm sure in the state of New York. But the protest and counter-protest went on without any injury, without anything. The president also said, when he was in opposition, he never got people to demonstrate. And he was there waiting for his turn. And he also said, if you want to remove him, you remove him by the ballot, which is right. He was given the mandate. He talked about the things that he's done in preparation for the election. So if we want to remove him, we remove him by the ballot. That's all well and good. My only beef with the report was that the committee came up with the conclusion that this was an attempt to overthrow a legitimate government. And what was the evidence? The only evidence they had was that people were saying Mara must go. And also, at the time he was out of the country, people were saying he was not coming back. The other thing that came to mind, which is very, for me, disturbing, was the mention of the special rapporteur of the UN in Sierra Leone, that his tweets gave people the impression that they supported, the international community supported this and remove a legitimate. For God's sake, Mr. Safar Abdullah is a fine gentleman, he's a lawyer. And as a lawyer, when you make a statement, you must correct that statement beyond all reason and doubt. And that's the part which I think I found suspect. There are so many other reasons. He talked about people, about the justice system, access to justice. Some of the children or family who took part were people who their relatives have been held in prison for other incidents, which up till now the case has not been decided. He also spoke about the economy, youths complaining about access to employment, just marginalization. So if he's saying that on one hand, which is good, because he talked about the role of traditional rulers and everything. But even when it comes to traditional rulers, he also talked about District Security Committee. He said in the areas where this riot took place, they were opposition stronghold, according to him, the District Security Committee were ineffective. But where the riot did not take place, they were effective and communicating. So if they were effective and communicating, it means in those areas, there was adequate plans and knowledge to stop the situation escalating. In the other areas, they were ill prepared. Because the president himself said, 8-9, people sat at home peacefully. But in the streets. But it goes against the conclusion of the committee that this was an orchestrated. The other thing he talked about, which was their actual, they believe this was financed by some people. But then he blames the telecommunication, the banks, because he cannot produce any evidence that this was financed and paid for by people who conspired to overthrow the government. So let me hold fire for that. There are issues that we will discuss, but let me have your take on that, especially the issues in terms of and the conclusion that this was a plan, a well-orchestrated plan to overthrow a legitimate government, and even citing the role of the international community.
Thank you, Mr. Mengo. Let me start off with the first video we'll play. That was of the president speaking as to in government, as to the yesteryears, how we came to power. That was then, this is now, which I agree with him 100%. He was and he is a constitutionally installed government, and the state of politics in Sierra Leone, or of the constitution or of the law in Sierra Leone, we must all agree, is something that is on a one-way street, meaning there is no going or coming, in the sense that we must elect a president through the ballot box as prescribed by law, and we must get rid of a government if need be, since there is an option, because the constitution now call for a mandatory two-term. The people, if they are dissatisfied with the quality of work that's being done by a sitting government, have the right to vote that government out, or we can use an expression to kick the government out. There are many expressions that can be said, only within the bounds of the constitution of law. So I don't think any sober-minded person in Sierra Leone in this day and age will even want for welcome, unless you not get any foresight, will even want for welcome the involvement of the military to run a government, because they're not equipped for that. They rule by decree. There is nothing democratic which the government will do. So unless somebody not love the country, no matter how bad things get, the last thing where you go want for even think or anticipate or even advocate now a military overthrow of a government. And the word overthrow can be used in many senses. And I think the implication by the report where we hear Mr. Safa Abdullah to talk about, the implication, because it wasn't expressed, is that for overthrow the government by unlawful means. Why would anybody want that? You know, he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. If you want for pull a government, you get for pull the government by lawful means. So you young government who you support to come should also go out the same way. So there are too many things being read into the thing. But the first video where the president he says certain things them will disturb me, because I think with all the bookmaya will get, with all the lawyers here, all these big sounding names of people, me disappointment, me disillusionment is the fact that people don't see to grasp the significance and the importance of what it means to run a government. As I have always said, first of all, the sole motivation should be service. And you want for serve just for improve the lives and the condition of the country for no other reason. That should be, those should be the reasons. Now, the president seemed a little bit ill-advised while listening to him tape. He used certain, let me say, statements in the first person singular, which just perplexed me. He say, if you don't want in government, you don't need for protest. I couldn't believe. Go back and listen to what he say. He said because income he was elected. So if you don't want him, now for vote him out. So he said that expressly. You don't need to protest. I can't believe that. Isn't a protest part of what is allowed by law? An expression? What the law permits, your freedom of expression, your freedom of assembly. So I don't understand. So I think the president is a little bit misguided. Yeah. And when I can go back, not to me or word, not from me or much. He say, then if you try for get rid of him, he can follow you all the way to your grave. Him. And not say the law. Now, in a democracy, the president, under no democracy, a president is empowered to follow people away disagree with, to engrave. Because if there's a system in place, what to deal with law enforcement, what to deal with lawlessness. So when the president personalizes that when you express displeasure within governance, him personally can follow you to a grave, he's misguided. He really not grasp the significance of democracy. And all them brothers here within a government, when they say they're be professor, they write all them big books, who work for this man, they should let him know. No, Mr. President, you can't talk like that. No president get the right for follow anybody to engrave, because what you say by implication, not violently. Okay? So I think it's misguided. Then they say all the time when they're in our opposition, try for organize a demonstration. Well, a demonstration is a democracy. But so I don't understand why you say he not try for. Maybe he was not an effective opposition leader, because he should have. Because the Ernest Koroma government was doing a whole lot of wrong things then that the opposition should have demonstrated against. That he, as the opposition, major opposition party leader, should have engaged in. So I'm a little bit perplexed, I'm disappointed, and I'm concerned that the president himself does not seem to grasp the significance of running a democracy. I have always said a democracy or running a government is heavy lifting. It's not a child's play. So this guy's coming to this as an opportunity to help themselves. But if you take the job seriously, a lot of these things, a president should not even be saying it, because he personally does not have the right to go after anybody. You know? That's why you have a certain mechanism in place for take care of lawlessness. Now, and it seems like then you get Mr. Abdullah, when a lawyer, who I think should know better, he reached certain conclusions without any factual foundations. And sometimes, again, I'm saying this, I think the whole thing about August 10 is being exaggerated. The demonstration indeed took place. It was a 3-day demonstration. We have to go back by the facts. 2 days, people were asked to stay home. They stayed home. Nothing happened. The 3rd day, people went out. They were demonstrating. And Mr. Abdullah, in your report, conclude that the police were heavy-handed, you know, and then that led to just nothing less than a chaos. So we have to be very careful when we begin to talk about. So Mr. Safa Abdullah say that because people were saying President Bio must go, but that is a legitimate expression within the context of the Constitution. People have the right to say that, but they don't mean to. Must go does not mean you want for illegitimately overthrow the government. Must go means that you know wish this government when in time done for come back. So let us get some level of tolerance. Let us be more mature. Let us live up to the expectation of the book we don't learn. We will say we are lawyers. We will say we are international people there, like Professor Francis. They will say then I'll be head of that. Now it's time for us to show ourselves. Let us make we begin to understand. Say now we're not for the say no, Mr. President. We not think so. You see, because freedom of expression is not as easy to be tolerant when you're in the power of the other side. You know. And what we don't realize, some of the limitations of this freedom of expression give you the right to curse. It's indecent. It's not a proper way of behaving in a decent society, in a civilized society, but you get a right for be vulgar. You get a right to be disrespectful. You get the right to express your displeasure. There are so many things what democracy calls for. We are well within the bounds of the law. But it seems to me what this report they demonstrate is some level of intolerance. And I'm amazed that a country can take upon itself for accuse the international community of trying to support insurrection. Where is the evidence? Why are people are being so irresponsible, is what I would call it, to be saying things that they substantiate? Are they saying the international community should sit aside and watch us butcher each other? you know. And this report, when I go see, there is a renowned or an infamous person who is supposedly a deputy minister who has been accused of summarily executing people. He has not been held to account, and even the commission say whether they call him for testify if he did not appear. Okay, so is that the country we're really looking for, where a minister will get the power for just on his own accuse somebody of a crime, judge the person, and punish the person by execution? And with that rumor they're going around about this particular minister, everybody know who we're talking about. If he's so innocent, why hasn't he come forward? Even when the commission asked him, make he come disclaim some of them things, and they for say no, you're not doing any such thing. Okay, so where are we going with this kind of accusations? For people like me, now I know this doesn't sound too good. I am so. Listen, President Bill get all right. I have been one of the people that would have support him in the sense that for say a lot of them laws that we're engaging, it just take advantage of the bad laws that were created under APC and the Kaba government. The election laws, the midterm census, these were just bad laws. Like I say, you know, no precedent should be given to contradict what's already in the Constitution about census. But when you get bad lawyering, that's what happens. When you get lawyers then who do not have the requisite qualification for draw Constitution, but then a lawyer then can draw Constitution, this is what you get. When we get people that would think so because they get PhDs, they qualify for do everything. This is what you end up with, because we have too many square pegs in round holes until we begin for plug in the appropriate positions qualified people. I mean, you get a PhD, yes, you're generally regarded as a learned person, no question about it. If you're a lawyer, you're regarded as a learned person. If you're an engineer, if you're an accountant, if you are a professor, if you're a teacher, these are all learned areas. But I cannot see where they would take in your line of work. I cannot see where, because you are a lawyer, you think you are equipped to write a constitution. I cannot see because you think you're a lawyer, you could draft policy on health law, on employment law, or on immigration law, or or various things. These are the things for let people know. A lawyer not qualify you necessarily to just make for handle broad side. If they make you head of a committee, your first job of business is to find experts that you for join your committee for someone that can come up with a good. You being a lawyer can be appointed to head any committee. I have no problem with that. You being a lawyer can be appointed to head a constitutional committee. I have no problem with that. But you should have enough sense to know that if you're not a constitutional lawyer, you shouldn't be going around drafting a constitution. Put on your team, on that committee day, qualified people. It's just like if I'm a soccer player, I cannot be a team all by myself. But if I want my team for win, I have to pick team players then way even better past me. If me not the captain of the team, not necessarily make me the best player. So if you're not chairman of the group, shouldn't make you the smartest guy, but it should make you a good leader, because leadership capability is far different from just having all this big sounding deploy with the talkboat. So we are mixing things up. And until we get to the point where we begin to put the right people in the right places, we are having too many problems with laws. So when President Biyo do the midterm census, I for one did not condemn him, because they draw up a statute, where I think an illegal statute, a statutory instrument where say if the president wishes, he can conduct a midterm census. Ridiculous. In fact, it's nonsensical. What the Constitution say every 10 years? Where are the lawyers to challenge that? The opposition party should have gone to court to have that portion of the law stricken. It's illegal. So there are so many things wrong. So when President Bio do that, I didn't have any problem with the man. I would have done the same thing if I were president, because he's just taking advantage of a badly crafted law. And he's done that in many other instances. When the bad laws them, he ended up being the beneficiary of bad laws then we will craft, not the constitution as well as the parliament. You know? But now I can't understand where it is swing the other way and accusing people the way they exercise their rights of free speech, of assembly, as trying, and even the expression, Bio must go, as an attempt to illegally get rid of him? How? By making those expressions? That is covered under the freedom of speech clause of the Constitution. So we have to be very careful. Let us try to help this country. Let us begin to make good laws. Talking about the police, the reports talk about the police being ill-equipped, ill-trained, on and on and on and on. We once play a video. I will try to let us get them again. We'll get to follow some of the lead of Kenya, how they're trying so hard to improve their system. They also had hotly contested political differences, but they've come to the conclusion that for the betterment of their country, they must try to begin to address issues that are inimical to the well-being of the country. There's a video where the current Kenyan president is saying to the police, you are not, the police is not for the government. The police is not for the political party in power. The police is for all the people, those in government, those in opposition, those who are not into politics. And the police, their duty now to protect lives and property. The Kenyan government, the Kenyan president is saying that. And he's telling the police, keep within your perimeter. Now can begin for defend we, the political party, say we'll get enough operators who will take care of that. It's time for we on leadership for begin to talk like that. It's easy for talk say, no go out there, no instigate, not this and that. But let it come from the mouth of the, until we like the expression, orders from above, make it be expressions from above. You see? So, because if we want to get a good country, if we wish our country well, we'll start from scratch. And starting from scratch means we have to make sure that certain institutions are well kept and well taken care of and allowed to grow. And one last point I want to make. Now, we understand what, well, first of all, nobody expresses that. I've not heard anybody. I don't think anybody in Sierra Leone will wish that, not even President Bio himself. Military overthrow is of no use. It's useless. It doesn't do any good for the country. So nobody wants that. Anybody who will understand anything about governance will not want that. So, but having said that, let us begin to understand the extent of freedom of expression and what people could, can, or must say without being accused of trying to overthrow illegally a government. Because I'm beginning to see even lawyers who are supposed to educate the public as to the tolerance, the extent, and the receptiveness of certain expressions of that freedom of expression clause. I'm beginning to see even lawyers falling for this thing about wanting to overthrow government, you know? And overthrow is being used in the negative sense. So we will leave it as it is generally known. So we will use overthrow, the word overthrow, for mean illegal. But it doesn't necessarily imply that, but let's leave it at that. Let's take it for what it is, say that's what people were saying. But how does President Bio must go rise to the level of an attempt to overthrow a government other than legitimately? You know, where is the evidence that people from abroad or from certain circles were bankrolling or supporting insurrection. You know, we must stop that. We have to take governance very seriously and start for up the antique or the games, and let we raise the quality of politics in our country. You know, with the belief that, I mean, it's a give and take situation. So we not for make each other's enemy, you know. And people who've listened to me over the years know my position with respect to these two political parties, but I'm not going to go into that. But it's about time for some of us to start educating the people, you know. And I said a whole lot of misunderstanding in terms of certain expressions being viewed in the negative sense. And if in fact, if there were attempts to illegally overthrow the government, how come no one has been charged with any crime of the sort? So let's be careful, you know. I don't think the president is under any threat to be illegitimately removed. I've seen no evidence of that based upon the little I know. Any reasonable people will not support that. It's not, it will be of no good for the country. They say you cannot throw the baby with the bathwater. So if we're not like President Bio, not necessarily for destroy the country in trying to take him out. I mean, that common sense. So with the baby in the water, you pull the baby first before you throw the water where you want something. So now that would allow them for doing that. So please, let us start for educate. I appeal to my fellow lawyers them, my fellow intellectuals them, the high sounding degree holders who are in government, for let would take opportunity for educate to stop this incitement. And I even heard Mr. Safadi talk about hate speech. I'm not sure his definition. I could disagree with him about hate speech, expression of hate speech. If I say I don't like you, or I disagree with you, or I don't want you, not to hate speech that one day. You know? What is hate speech in your definition? Hate speech to win America, now where you get a certain ill motive to hurt certain people where because of their political belief or their social association, you want to hurt them. That's what hate speech is. Then you go out advocating that. It's, you know, that's not hate speech. But speech of disagreement cannot be raised to the level of hate, you know? And we have to be careful. If we want to get some credibility, let us stop accusing the international community. Unless one last thing I always want to bring to ourselves. We keep the complaint about the international community. We complain about the international community. We've said it over and over. If we are so sick and tired of the international community, why do we keep going to them for loans and everything? Why don't we just live on our own ability to produce and govern? You know,
just hold it on there. I think we have a caller on the line. Because when we can delay, we're not able to get them. We have a caller on the line.
Hello, caller.
Good evening from my side, Shilon and Mr. Mengot. And I thank you again for bringing this program, because when I don't make some of us become addicted to an analysis. You know, we always talk the salon we talk of democracy only because they say people and they go vote. Salon we don't talk of democracy now because people and they vote in a democracy. Therefore, get see democracy now the rule of law, where dissent is also permitted. And it come back to the report we will talk about today. Everybody knows in a salon, we see the government appoint somebody for handling work. I mean, it therefore take a miracle for that person get the guts for one. When I see who side the general, then the only person who can get the guts for say things otherwise. You see them pull and come out. Them pull and come out mainly. They're not talking to you. These are the position again. Now for the COVID auditing. Because they know see if the audit COVID funds, that's a problem for them. That makes them pull and come out. People do not see this because that part of the job in pool. Now the problem can be heavily. So you go just see Safa Abdullah, this guy, even Kamarimba, now he goes tell him to the judiciary. Now a lawyer. This man, look at the way he defended Kamarimba. Look at the way he defended Kamarimba. How comes even he thinks that this man is a lawyer? The past government, I already say he put up one report for make a report. But that is there for talk against the government. Maybe I don't understand why this time around he cannot. Maybe I will see back the thing when they talk about say this government don't buy public relations, the media, the everything, so that they will write good things about them. They look, better look nice to everything. But this man, we did one report where they be kill somebody in a boaton or waiting. They say that they been produce a report, very damn report against the APC government by then. But today, look at what he do. And I can get back the way Mr. Shilon they analyze things as a lawyer, because my wife is a lawyer, so I can see the way they analyze the way the president they talk. I don't talk him several times. This president, he cannot express himself. May he left for talk. May he find somebody where they write for him. May he read. That kind of statement could not come from him. Say, I will follow somebody something in grave. So now, if then nobody even from me, because me the honest what I get, apart from when I analyze things them, I'm not listening to which the president they talk, which minister they talk, everything they are saying things nice. I not can believe this statement you don't talk 3 or 4 months ago. Nobody ever mentioned it. The president he talk this word. Say go follow somebody sitting in grave. I've never heard about this statement. That's the why they am so. And at the country, the people and they go the AYV, they SLBS, they will listen to this president, just they clap back and come on. This man don't know how to talk. And when you talk about all these things, if we're not there for change this constitution, like always we talk about. Like I'm Mr. Shilon talk, you do anything wrong. Now because you go according to the laws we na paper. If they're not changing, everything will continue to be the same. Nobody will get the guts for question the president in actions. And if they see they appoint somebody, they can't make a report. All what this man not talking about this report. Now what the government does, apart from proof say the sponsor, because then we talk the government we talk say they know say the APC and the sponsor the thing. So now this only the will put in that paper. But apart from that, they put everything on the paper as the government be supposed to. Anyway, I will leave now for now. I'll come back later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. We greatly appreciate your contribution. And I have said enough for now. Make I pass it over. Okay, let me take one more call. Then I go pass it over to my co-host. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where's you call from? You don't have to tell us your name, but feel free to tell us your name, but at least tell us where you're calling from. Okay, we may have lost that caller, so I pass it over to my co-host, Mr. Mengot. Mr. Mengot, back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think right? And you talk about a lot of educated people in our country. And a lot of us go through institution of higher learning. And when you go through the institution, apart from you study what you get for study, a major part where they determine whether you get degree, whether a master's, starting from bachelor degree to master's to PhD. Now your thesis where you write, right? And mostly when you write a thesis, we get what we call hypothesis testing, right? You make a statement. Yeah.
May I interrupt you? Hold your thoughts. Let's take this caller before. I'm sure that's the caller we lost before we lose them again. Hello, caller. Please tell who side you call from.
Yes, sir.
And if you may,
yes,
give me your name.
Good evening from your inside. I call from the Kingdom of France.
All right, welcome. Thank you, sir. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. To me, the report, it reflects the government, all waiting the president and all the one they wait at in Talkman and at social media, all waiting in the screen and the report reflect. And when you watch the report, uh, 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 uh,
Yeah, we get some connectivity problem,
it
some
looks
connection
somehow
problem.
regionalistic. It looks somehow regionalistic. A lot of nepotism at the report, because even they were involved for this investigation, when they're all, it's like, am I having a connection problem? Hello?
Yeah, it seems that way. It
Hello?
seems
Yeah,
that way.
probably,
Yeah.
probably you can change your position. It might be that.
Me, I
Change
get
where
to know
you're calling
anyway.
from. Yeah, we're getting you loud and clear now.
Okay. When I watch the reports and I read them from the outside and outside, I see the people away and do this investigation. When they compile this report, in the first place, this report it take like almost 8 months they come out. They wait until the international partners then pull their own reports before they counter. It's like they try to counter the reports, not to report and pull, not counter the report. And it's like they don't even want for pull a report, just like what they do with the killings that won't take place. Where they say the investigatory reports are not ever come out until now. Now the same thing with this one. This one now, they're forced to just pull this report because of the international partners. The reports they don't pull against the government. So it's like they come on the defensive. You understand? And I like the analysis by this report here, so especially Mr. Chilon. He says something. When the president, you as a president, you know they make palaver the people. You go talk, say, you dey chase the people right onto their graves. And they get a way for pacify this protest, because they notify them, will be the very audience them, will be the social media commentators them, whether they talk say they get for do this protest. In fact, they notify them like a month. What did he do? He grab him, his wife, and whosoever where he did close to them, he go to UK. You understand? He goes to the UK. They protest them until the date reach, sit down strike, 1 day, 2 days, and then same one, then the government ministers of this SFP, and then begin go out. They begin a provoke situation. I mean, we have been saying we have the protest. No, see, we have come out now. Then the first people have opened a shop there. You understand? Mm-hmm. So even like people they were encouraged for come out. If anyone lost in life, now they're responsible. You see, and now when this president, when he returned, when he go talk this statement, now the time we are the killing of this evangelist Samson McKinney, when upon a return, imagine when after the report has done on August 10th, evangelist Samson, I think they kill him somehow around the 14th. You understand? So it take like almost like 4 to 5 days before they go kill the guy. So it's like now with your instruction, the reports don't cover that. And even when they interview the ministers, they know they even want to call the guy name. When they call Minister Rado Soare on one interview, when the interviewer, you know, even want to mention that. You see, the thing when this report don't do, it creates some kind of grievance. It make it a set fire between a regional, get no regional balance. It's so heart-rending for some of we where we not belong to a political party. Some of we not get nothing for, we not get connection. We just want to let peace then us alone, so that by the time when we go ready for go there on holiday, we go there in peace, we come out there in peace. You understand? But then even, thank you so much. It's heart-rending, hard for talk. You have to, they all apology. They want to, they all the people. They want to wait and die. They want to wait and kill. Wait and go bear. They go bear the papa. They want and they sold and they cry. Then they want for government back. Then sold and they cry. Then families and they cry. Then they lie the dead body. Then not only we wait they alive. We see do that the social media where but the one they wait and kill wait and bear and then lie at them. They want and the God go hold them responsible. Madam Namionte, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you calling.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah. So, Mr. Mengot, I'm going to pass it over to you. Let's don't forget that we get one more, hopefully one more topic before
this would be my final take on this report. I mean, I'm talking from my background as a governance and institutional development expert. And also as somebody who's been, so what I was talking about, hypothesis testing, you make a statement, right? That statement can be true or false. So go back to the terms of reference. For find out who that finance the whole thing and everything, and who that orchestrate them. But the report itself conclude they cannot trace any finance mechanism or transfer of funds. So in other words, that false hypothesis they're waiting at the terms of reference proven. Also, they also say they don't believe say it was organized by the opposition based on their opposition, their own statement where they make. But in areas where even the author of the report saying that opposition stronghold, the one them we participate were identified as prominent members from the party, right? We participate. So in other words, they listed them in the annexes. For God's sake, we were out in Europe or anywhere. When there's a protest against a sitting government, it is normal for members of parliament, councillors of the opposition party, for joining protest. I spent 8 years working in the seat of power in this country, UK where I am. Seat of parliament. There have been so many parliamentary demonstrations with placards, everything. I can name so many. And during that demonstration, the politicians do take part. So would you say the politicians who took part were planners of those demonstrations? So they're not for giving support? Because as a politician, you return it with the wish of your people. Then also talk about to assess the consequences of accident on the household, communities, and the nation. Consequences of the incidents. The incident, not incidents. Let me get them. But even prior to this, the report also talk about the dire economic situation. It talk about the youth malaise, the unemployment of malaise. Identify. They said they took part because some of their relatives who had been arrested for other issues were still in custody without giving a fair trial. Now, the last one, to recommend policies, programs, and actions for both the short term and long term to prevent such occurrence. Yes, that is where I'll give him a plus. He makes very good recommendation. But these recommendations are not new. Almost 20 years ago, we had them espoused in the Truth and Reconciliation report, the TRC report. It was there. And that one, the investigation was even more graver than this because it was investigating the cause of the tenure of civil unrest in our country. So if 20 years ago we've made this recommendation about access to justice, the need for the police to be properly trained, equipped, improve intelligence. In fact, it was out of that the Office of National Security was born under President Kaba. In fact, the secretary to this committee, who Mr. Bassi, who they regard as security expert, was part of the people who were trained to be on the ONS. So we have an intelligence service. So this was not spontaneous. Things have been going around all the time about this thing. So how come if we get ONS, we get the CID, we get police intelligence, how come they were not able to sit down and plan and say, yes, even if the people were demonstrated, how do we stop violence? And now look at how it ends. There's video. When they invoke MACP, most people know what's in a MACP, military aid to civilian power. When the military came in, what did they do? They didn't use violence. You can see them leading the people peacefully, telling a clap for the military. Right? Leading them peacefully for go around. So would all these events start as a demonstration and finally to round up? I don't talk about the actual terms of reference. Now I want to talk about even the people in the committee and how the committee was set up. In the history of Sierra Leone and other countries in Africa, such an investigation, right, in my view, should be carried out by no more than 3 people, headed by a learned judge, a retired judge, a security expert, and somebody from the civil society organization. So if you look at the people that were there at the committee, the institutions they represent, the Bar Association, when you talk about Bar Association access to justice, right? You check the ONS, the intelligence service. These are people who, instead of being part of the committee producing this report, they should have been people who should have been called as expert witness. Or actually, because if we look, you start from, you had Mr. Lawrence Bassi, when a security expert. We get Director of Legal Aid Board. And when you talk about Director of Legal Aid Board, it talks about supporting victims. People that will not get access to justice. It talks about the National Security Coordinator. It talks about the President of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists. And of course, we know the role journalists have played in successful government. It talks about Interreligious Council. We know what role religion plays in our society, because the religious leaders are our moral guarantors. It talks about the Independent Commission for Peace and Reconciliation, where of course we set that commission day to an act of parliament, but we don't know whether they don't get any peace or we don't get any reconciliation among the differences. It talks about the Political Parties Registration Committee. Politicians were named adversely. It talked about a retired police officer. The police also, they talked about heavy-handedness by the same report, but also talk about the lack of support, lack of logistics, lack of equipment, lack of training. Then it talk about the last person, the chairman of the Sierra Leone Ex-Servicemen's Association. These are people who should have been called upon, get their expert opinion, because there are some of them, they are still working, and then after that, form the report and a recommendation. But then they're on the other side now, on the table, being part of the panel. Why have such a large panel?
Unnecessary.
It was unnecessary. So in my view, people can challenge me for that. The way it was set up, the committee was set up, the appointment of the people in the committee, these people could have been better used by coming to give their expert opinion, analysis, and recommendation. Again, we got somebody here who say Charles Magai spoke to the police the same way like the Kenyan president as Attorney General, and Bio fired him because Bio is a dictator. Well,
We
that
have,
statement
we have
we
that
cannot
video,
corroborate.
we have that video too. We will play the video another time. Charles Magai video and the president of Kenya. Yeah,
So let
we have.
me stop from here. We get one caller on the line. Now we'll listen to the caller, and then we will go to our next topic, when a very important topic. So, caller, can you identify yourself or where you're calling for, and let's have your view. Caller, are you still there?
I think so.
Huh? He's still there. We have a caller on the line.
Yeah.
But he's not coming up. He or she.
Yeah. Hello, caller. Please come forward before we move on to another topic. Caller, are you still on the line? All right, we're going to move to the next topic. If you come back on, just let us know you're on board, and we will probably stop and try for, we get time limit, so we'll stop and probably entertain your question or comments. Yeah, I think we've lost the caller again, Mr. Mango. Can we just go ahead and probably deal with the next topic?
Now we know, just to end that part of this conversation, my only final say on this is that the report was presented to the president, and yes, good for that comment, positive analysis, Mr. Shillon. I'm highly impressed with your honesty in hammering the point home the president uses impunity to instill. That's fine. So what we will await, and we will appeal theirs, the age now in a salon, a life expectancy rate, I doubt if we reach 55. Some of us are well past that. So as elderly Sierra Leoneans, just like the chairman of the committee said to the president, Mr. President, you don't give me this work, we don't make the recommendation, hope you go put her into place. But given the situation we're in now, with about 2 months to election, because April is, we just hope, say, the incoming government, even if it's President Bio winning a second term, it will be a time for like look into the entire and relief. As in the Christian, we know even Saul changed to Paul on the road to Damascus. And this same president until we say, we come, he come with a new direction. If you win the second time, it'll come with the right direction. So let's hope the right direction, and these things will be fulfilled. So we thank you very much. The second segment, that's something very important. This issue of fake degrees. The issue of fake degrees, for that they will not know, log in at the background, it came about at a time when there was a report about an institution called Dominion University that was offering PhD to people. Where I think they alert the police the whole way then for all the convocation with the people in bright red gown, then go lock them, so they ended up giving people a degree under a mango tree. We were not graduates, we know how important graduation ceremony be where you wear that gown. And how serene the place they where then they go confer that degree to you. But for God's sake, if you decide for go take your own degree under mango tick, it just show the caliber of a person you be. So then that's how it started. Then we get a whistleblower who has been consistent, Dr. Idris Al-Lahai, it's like, you know, in we society, we get batoman. You know, where people they can do crime, you get that batoman where they count in bato for identify the culprit. So I will say Dr. John Idris Alai and I will like the batoman. This thing be of such concern because some of the people who were adversely named, one was the Inspector General of Police at the time. Then it was the Clerk of Parliament, a honorable man, because he still carries the title honorable. Then we had the leader of government business, who were all identified as acquiring this young qualification here. Now, universities them or institutions that which are not accredited by the state. And for people that let them understand, we get what we call a tertiary education council, TEC, headed by Professor Al-Ghali, former professor at Jalal University. When then they accredit all higher institutions of learning in the country, and also now the age of internet and distance learning, any overseas institution we were offered a service online to the country. So we have all them people and they. So we get all this brouhaha and all this calling about fake degrees and all the rest of it. We decide, Parliament in his wisdom, because he gets some among themselves, two honorable senior gentlemen, where in the end one of them said he was a victim rather than a perpetrator because he not been do due diligence for check say the university journey. Well, we leave that for another day. So Parliament decide for actually appoint a special committee. So today we are dealing with two special committees. The first special committee was the one which we have just discussed. Then Parliament had a special committee because under the mandate of Parliament, then apart from the standing committees, oversight committee, on any issue, Parliament can appoint a special committee for investigate an issue of national concern. So they actually get Dr. Kande Yumkela, who is the leader in Parliament of the NGC, for head that committee and produce a report. And the report when they produce, it talk about the proliferation of this false degree. But I hasten to remind person, one of the whistleblower, when this degree thing come up, he contact the Anti-Corruption Commission because obtaining a degree by any other means rather than an approved means is tantamount to administrative corruption. So we notable man say some of the people that were them in the accused, at the time they employ them, they had other qualification. So any qualification when they acquire after they don't employ them, it don't forget any effect on their job or their performance. So I leave it to you, the audience, to decide. So now that's now this fake degree. But for let me call it kinds are in a lawyer because we'll start from that before we go to the institutional line. Then we move a motion in Parliament. I don't know if they could highlight it for we. Where Parliament they recommend say, I think say 10 years imprisonment for fake degree. Yeah, Parliament passed into law stiff penalties for academic fraudsters. And it's noteworthy is 5 years for those who knowingly acquire a fake degree, a penalty of 10 years jail time, proprietors and board members of institutions that offer those degrees without proper approval, and the motion be moved by Honorable Kande Yumkela and seconded by Honorable William In and Honorable Bashiliki, where I should say Bashir Siliki is from the SLPP side of Parliament. and he is acting leader of government business. And Honorable Hassan Sise, acting leader of opposition, they all support the motion. So in other words, it is now criminal in Sierra Leone to offer or acquire fake degree. This is a way to address the proliferation of fake degrees in the country. So I can hand over now to my colleague. Let's talk about how this motion was moved, passed and approved, and what it says in our judicial system or law or precedents, or how it falls within our legal perspective. Let's give you a legal view on that. So, Mr. Shillong.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mengot. Okay, let me first start off by saying this is why I can always show the difference. The special committee was being headed by Dr. Yumkela, a highly respected, highly educated, a man of great repute, for head the committee. But sometimes this is where we can get for separate, the tire from the road. Dr. Yumkela, not a lawyer. He's not a sociologist. And findings will be one thing, but for determine what and for how long people should be sent to prison for having a piece of document or a piece of paper that turns out not to be fake. First of all, we get to define what is fake. Fake, because we use the adjective fake. We use the phrase fake degree. Okay, so we get to ask ourselves, first of all, what is the definition? What is Dr. Yumkela and the committee then definition for fake degree? If it's a fake degree where you obtain, if you obtain a degree under the mango tree, is that fake or isn't it fake? If you obtain that from a non-accredited institution at home or abroad, if you get a degree, is it fake? Because, for instance, in a lot of countries, even in the United States, there may be institutions that are not accredited, but they are allowed under the laws of the United States for award diplomas. So if you attend one of the universities there and you get a diploma from an uncredited university or institution at the United States, is that degree fake? So we need to go around and try for pinpoint what is fake. Okay, that's one. Two, we in society, because we see it, even the judges are doing this, which really infuriates me. For example, when I see Justice Fisher, I read where he gave the young man, the artist, the entertainer, 9 years for some crime concerning theft. Okay? I mean, that is so disproportionate to the crime. It just makes you wonder, why are we doing this to each other, destroying, using means through education for destroying with people? Because not only the politicians are doing this, we have to see the kind of punishment judges are giving people. For all we know, this young man, LAJ, supposedly, let's look at it in the light most favorable to the government, to the prosecution's case. Let us say everything they alleged this guy had done was true. That he go to the gas station, then thief petrol, then run away. How much petrol will one has to steal at that moment in time to justify a 9-year imprisonment? Doesn't the judge know he's destroying a talent? In the very country where this judge and study, and here, the United States, People don't, first of all, in most of these countries, England here, that would be a misdemeanor. That would be a non-imprisonment or a non-detention kind of matter, where you'll be put on probation.
Hold your
If in
thoughts,
fact,
we have a caller on the... Let's listen to this caller.
okay, hello caller, what's your name and which side you call from? Oh, please, you don't have to give your name, but
Hello.
tell us where you call.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Shilo. Me Ahmed, I call from UK.
Yes, Mr. Ahmed, thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Mengot. You know, actually, they do a very phenomenal work, a very good work. Me, I will learn each time when I come online. You know, each time I listen to my program, they say something. I wish these people, the stakeholders, they really follow. They're not politicizers. What you know they say. Some of we young folks, we see further that what you know they talk. It's like what people and me. I remember like the great grand people. What they tell me the year after. What's going to happen? When these people normally go to school, they're not educated. So while they listen to now, the mind they reflect far back when I was a young boy. So now really try. I really admire you. I wish I've been doing US, I will get in contact with you from me based in London. But by all this, I think it's a member, I don't know if you based in London again, because I need to understand this year. If I'm this year, I will find a time where I will try to get some by email and I really want to follow so that we will learn a lot from them. And I want to. You know, when you look at all of what is happening today, Mr. Shilo, Mr. Mengot, now integrity, now people then lack. Because how on earth the country will run out, certain selected few, even judgment for the people. Some people they wicked and sorry, but also the people then, or talk lie, or say something way not to so you be, instead of saying the facts, instead of measuring the facts, so that people, you know, they want to be open up. We all see what happened during the August 10 protest. We see what happened. We see people that will die unnecessarily. We see people that will go after the protest. But nobody, even the religious council, those people when you trust, nobody no can for say this is wrong. Nobody know they will for stand the integrity for condemn. Before that, then they make an insurrection, they try for please the president. This is wrong for God's sake. What is wrong is just wrong. There's no two name to wrong things. When it is right, it's right. For God's sake. You know, some of we, some people they follow politics, they belong to party, but we never can be like partisan. No, all we need is people with integrity. We then consider our own vision. You have right to end as long as you are within the law. You live in it, they will treat you equal. Despite they get their answer, they say racism or whatever. But look at the country today. Now day we grow, now day we go school, now day we go university. We cannot read up when we don't match. So big if I start to work as a teacher back home. I know my colleagues say something today, how we struggle with this present education system when they say, quality. I know some of these guys are we graduates, they are struggling. Their salary is just 1.5 million for a graduate. And imagine what you go to buy with regards to what is happening. Would they pay school fees? Would they pay college fees? Some of who they help some of the friends, when they get when they invite. Some of the brothers, the way they study and invite. You know, there's nothing absolutely way good with this system today. But people that lack integrity all across the sectors, be it the judiciary, be it the parliament, be it the police, the institutions are just not right. You know, so I wish actually if them people that will listen to now. Because when analysis and what you want to see with regards to law, Mr. Shino, believing in that's the fact. Except somebody who is naive, who just want to take a maybe people or whatever. But I don't see anybody in the right man for thinking we're not going to say the right thing. Some of me personally, I take myself for thanking us so much, and I really need it for me. Like I say, I wish I can get Mr. Mengo, because I think in Libya. I'll get him in contact. I want for land from a lot. And let somebody who is straightforward, where they say things as they are, regardless. Some of them get brother, they wouldn't have the army. Maybe your big brother, then they serve. But sometimes when it is wrong, we condemn. Don't do wrong to me, brother. Fear the God will make you. If not the God, what about the people? These are innocent people. Why are they suffering? Why are they suffering? Integrity not the power leaders then. Mother Bill, disappoint me big time. Disappoint me. So
Well,
thank you very much.
for
Thank
that.
you. I want to thank you now. And so yes, so make us stop here so far. Thank you very much, Mr. Shilon, Mr. Mengo. Thank you once again. Thank you.
You're most welcome, sir. Yes, Mr. Shilon.
Yes, sir.
You are continuing
So
with
I
the
was,
greeting.
let me continue with, thank you very much, the caller. I just want to continue on this fake degree thing. You know, with the power of being a parliamentarian, it affects people in lives. With the power of being a judge, it affects people in life for better or for worse. When you get such power, you for exercise them with great discretion. You just cannot use them because the power just because you get them. And we see a lot of that. Now, I make up they give for us an analogy or example, the specific case of the LAJ sentencing to 9 years for what in most countries, even inside Judge Fisher go school, he should know that in England, nobody will be doing 5 years for stealing gasoline, if in fact that's what happened. Okay? So in most countries, like in America, they differentiate by amount certain categories of crimes, and even within the categories of misdemeanor. First of all, we break them down to misdemeanor and felonies under state law, and even under felonies, we get the various categories of felonies, so they all not carry the same kind of sentence. If I assault you with a deadly weapon, or with an instrumentality, or with a weapon that could be construed as a deadly weapon, I may be charged with assault with a deadly weapon. All right? Such as if I strike you with a stick once, I could be charged with assault with a deadly weapon. But there's another category of assault with a deadly weapon, that is assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill. That's another category of a crime. So I may not be charged with assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, even though I strike you with a weapon presumed to be deadly, because maybe I strike you just once, and maybe of the particular nature of the stick I strike you with. Then assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill could be a knife, could be a gun, it could be an iron, it also could be a stick. Depends on the violence with which you exact that attack day. It could be presumed to be, I had intention of killing you. That's a different category. So Parliament has not even been taking time to break some of their offenses here down into categories and giving what you call sentencing guidelines, which is why the judiciary, this is the job of the Chief Justice. This is the job of the Attorney General. This is the job of the Bar Association. The Bar Association should be appalled. And this is the job of the opposition. They should be appalled that Cameroon went to court, a disabled man physically and mentally. You know, he lacked both the mental and physical capacity to defend himself, and he was being tried. What sort of justice system is that? And the Bar Association is tight-lipped about it. The opposition is tight-lipped about it. You know? And we don't see anything wrong with that kind of a thing. So what are we waiting for? Because if it's not Cameroon today, it's going to be you, your loved one, tomorrow. Are you going to wait until that happens before you see the wrongness or the wrong of such a process? If you bring a man to trial on, in a wheelchair or on a stretcher, what more evidence do you have to have does the court have to have that this man is incapable of participating in his own defense? You know, what sort of lawyering is that the lawyers will let that go on and don't protest? Okay, when a person receives 9 years for stealing gasoline, looking at it in the light most favorable to the state, assuming the state had all the evidence for convict him, a young man with musical talent is useful to the community because he entertains. No prior record. He's going to be given 9 years? What society? Now the society this will want for leave? The judiciary then get for up the game. This is rubbish. This is actual nonsense the judiciary is engaging back home. And the Bar Association to be ashamed of themselves. Not to raise a voice of protest when they see sentencing.
Brother,
Yeah, go
Mr.
ahead.
Shillon, one of the things I want you to highlight for people is this process of Parliament passing a motion and deciding what punitive measure.
Oh, I'm getting
should
to
be
that.
given to
On the fake degree?
Yeah.
On the fake degree? Oh yeah. No, I'm just
Yeah.
just this every time I'm saying now is just preamble to that.
Oh,
That is the main subject matter.
Well,
Oh yeah. Yeah. But
I
I'm
know
just saying I'm
that's
just
the
showing,
lawyer's privilege.
yeah,
That's
I'm
the
just
lawyer's
showing the
privilege.
similarity. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm just showing the similarities how we tend to take for granted people in freedom, even the judiciary. Parliament doesn't seem to take that into account. Judiciary doesn't seem to, they just use them power. They're not the exercise them power within reason. And they're not the exercise them power with some humanity. They're not the exercise them power with discretion. The judges, then just they throw out outlandish sentencing, destroying lives, knowing full well that when you deprive somebody of their liberty here, you imprison them under such deplorable conditions of who prisons them back home, you not only destroy that person there, you're destroying all those who depend on him. You know? So that takes me back to this parliamentary fake degree recommendation. This is where I am all in favor of some kind of penalty being levied against those where the people where they come with fake degree. But we get to think about it very reasonably, you know? We just cannot say 10 years. Do we know what 10 years? 10 years is a very long time. People should serve 10 years in prison just because they come up with a false accreditation. We not hurt anybody.
No, the 10 years is for the proprietor. The actual portion of the degree is 5 years.
Okay, even the proprietor, which
in other words, the man will be set up that Dominion University, the board member, and they will work 10 years.
Yeah, the owner of the Mango Tree University and Chancellor, they go get 10 years. The recipient of the diploma go get 5. Yeah, I got it. But in either case, I think that's way excessive for the nature of the crime itself. It's my problem. I think there should be certain levels. You know, when you get 10 years sentencing per any crime, it get to be very serious. It get to be something to the level of embezzlement, fraud, repeated habitual criminal conduct. You know, 10 years is a long time you just give people for just possessing a fake degree. And it seems to me, Dr. Yumkela and others, they not to put the responsibility where it belongs. Because they didn't get to come with guidelines as to how to minimize, or as a matter of fact, probably prevent or eradicate the usage of fake degrees within the system. And it can be done. It's not such an impossibility. You know? I mean, I don't see how, I mean, you can get all the fake degree you want. it will do you no good if we get mechanism in place in government where it cannot be useful to you. Because everything based on the usefulness of that piece of paper there. Well, if your fake degree cannot be used in any way, shape, or form, if we come up with constructive, administrative, or legislative policies whereby degrees or diplomas have to be determined ahead of time before an offer of any type of job can be made, what's wrong with that? Why punish the person, say because he was able to outsmart the institution? When you get a professor, if Frabe College not get enough sense for I check your accreditation and then just decide for hire you and make you give you a teaching job, that is bad. I'm not saying that it's not bad, because that's some deception. But I don't think it's the kind of deception that warrants a 10-year sentence. Because to me, I look at the other way, say, but what system Frabe College get in place? If they had put an appropriate system in place, you would not have been hired in the first place. Then the crime you will have ended up committing is an attempt to deceive, which will have been a misdemeanor. It still would be a crime. Because if you attempt to deceive the institution, then you are caught. That of itself will be a crime, even when caught. But instead of sending the man away for 10 years, now he will be sentenced for 2 years in prison or less. And the university will have been saved from fraudulent conduct by this person, because the university had mechanism in place by which this person was not hired. But it seems to me, Dr. Yomkela, they reversed the role. And then just say, just by giving people a lengthy, or saying people who will serve lengthy time, 5 years and 10 years, that of itself solves the problem. But I don't think so. I think there's a solution to the problem. The solution is pretty simple to me. And that is, any kind of job that calls for any kind of diploma, a degree of any sort, let whoever is hiring you get the burden for determining the legitimacy of that credential they would present to you. You know, and these things are easily ascertainable worldwide. For instance, if I want a job that calls for a certain qualification in the legal field or in any other field, and I send the degree, why will anyone want to hire me even if they're impressed with the degree? Why not try for make the credential verifiable? Why wouldn't they ask me to give them authorization for seek from institution the education or the qualification or my transcript? There are many ways, but I'm not so sure by just recommending stiff sentencing that solves the problem. And besides, I think it's unreasonable. You know, it's the crime of itself, and the punishment is totally disproportionate to the crime itself. And at the end of the day, very little harm can be done with one presenting a fake degree if we put mechanism in place whereby you cannot use it. You know, it's the same thing. I mean, you know, they go take GCE if you know go from 1 because you come up with a fake paper, then get away with it, and they do that, and they so will not see that they happen. You know, they go from 6 with fake paper. You know, they end up a lot of times in a Frabe College with fake, because there are ways then they determine. But not begin scared people and say you will go jail 10 years if you claim say you to go from 6 even when you not go from 1. Then a bad lawyering, a bad legislative practice, and that's being lazy. We not use with intellect. If we want to use with intellect, put the burden on the institutions that are hiring people with fake degrees, thereby making the degrees useless. Okay? And when they degree and they become useless, there is less incentive for the proprietor to continue it, because nobody's going to hire like American and get a phrase, because that diploma they will not be worth the paper it is written on. That would be my recommendation. But I don't agree with Dr. Yomkela and the group where they say then forgive people and stiff penalty. That's not the solution to the problem at all. Yes, punishment should be meted out, but it should be very lenient punishment. And this is not something that is not preventable. It is easily preventable, fake degrees. And look at the manner in which the parliament went about investigating the thing. First of all, they not try to get subpoena power. With a subpoena power, the people in way they question the degree, where they ask them for come forward, should have been subpoenaed, both personally, in law we would say in persona jurisdiction, and then they should have subpoena power for documents, for production of documents. You know, Mr. X will want to let you appear before the committee and will want to make you bring all your credentials. And if possible, come with any explanation you have or verification as to the legitimacy of them degrees there. But we haven't done that. But what we've done is just the simple thing of trying to just say people should lose their freedom. We should take people in constitutional right of freedom very seriously. We just can't be taking it away from them for reasons such as fake degree or stealing gasoline, stuff like that. I mean, that tells me we legislators them, as well as we judges them and lawyers them, not get full appreciation of the rights which the Constitution guarantee people them, of them freedom. But if we get if we get full appreciation for that, we cannot easily just be making laws for take away them freedom and from people and for 10 years. What lesson is this person going to learn? If they engage out fake degree, you send them to prison 6 months. Is he going to learn less, a lesson from that, as opposed to 10 years? Why 10 years? 10 years is a long time. You destroy a person's future, locking him up with such deplorable condition, any condition, let alone union system. Come on, parliamentarians, come on, lawyers. Let's use some judges. Wake up, rise up. Let us do something good for people them. We're not getting power here for destroy them. We're not for be the cell. What some of we get with your body will become cancerous for each to kill you. Let we become some useful. Let we education try for use some degree of reasoning. What would they try for pass laws then? You know? And I'm saying all of this for someone who went to accredited universities. Universities. I don't have any hesitancy in producing anything if my credentials are questioned. So I'm speaking for those who not even get degree from accredited universities, let alone under the Mango Take. But these are human beings. Now, make we will not learn, we for exercise the power within Giwi with some degree of discretion, with some degree of tolerance, with some degree of humanity. Not for just use that thing and beat somebody down to death, which is what I see with judges, or lawyers, or parliamentarians are doing. So that is my point. I don't know if I adequately addressed the issue, Mr. Mengo, but this is my point.
Yeah.
I disagree totally with the recommendation. I think it's way excessive. It's way excessive. It's way disproportionate to whatever the offense is. And I think it should be taken back to Parliament and be redone, you know, and move the burden on the person before to whom, or the institutions to whom these credentials have been presented. Let them do their due diligence. If they do their due diligence, we won't have any problem. You know? And there's one aspect to this also. I think there's an aspect that is not being recommended. Even when they use the word proprietor of the person where they get a degree. But what about somebody where they hire, where knowingly that you get a fake degree? Because we get an instance in one of the major institutions where the boss man, they make excuse, say, oh, well, them people and they work for me, they get fake degree, but they not use that fake degree for me for hire them, which is a nonsensical argument. Where right there, you should have fired them when you find out. And that is a reflection on you that you don't due diligence. But what about that group there? What is the punishment for them? If I know say you get fake degree, I hire you. Knowingly hire you, knowing that now fake degree, that's going on too. Parliament, I don't think Parliament in the report cover that. It look like that person, the person will go hire somebody with a fake degree knowingly, it will go unpunished. And that's where we leave loopholes for corruption. So that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much, Fambulem. We've actually gone towards with time. But one of the things I got for highlight, which is of serious concern, because this, apart from the analysis we do right now, we are recommending them for future. And I studied in England. I studied in a university. I also studied in what we are the polytechnics, although most of those polytechnics now has become university. So in return, for all polytechnic, we get CNAA, an accredited body. That is Central Council for Academic Awards. So if you present any qualification from a polytechnic, first of all, you get to get that CNAA mark, a hologram and everything. And any employer, some do it discreetly. Because if you apply for the job, you tell them the year where you graduate. And so when they graduate now, I still get me graduation, that souvenir where they can produce, where they can put all the list of graduates from the different faculty. So it's easily checked. You can go there. Universities, they have records. That is the UK system. And most of these people, a significant percentage of these people in our country, some of them get their first degree in Sierra Leone. So for God's sake, almost university will get. Why can't we have a system whereby even the Ministry of Tertiary Education or some kind of government body get a database of all graduates at the various accredited university. So when you go, you present your document, you access the people and then go talk whether you actually graduated from that university. The other side we talk about when a fake degree, some of the fake degree now where somebody else get a degree there, you go change the person in name and put your name. That is fraud. That's a falsification.
That's a crime. That's a crime already.
You have different categories of fake. But to end it up here, one of the things when the report coming, which is very shocking, which is what we do. We have a public service commission. I worked in the civil service in Sierra Leone. When I left, I applied. Those days, government job, it didn't have the official gazette. I appeared before a panel, the public service commission. In those days, if you're not Christian, you'll be well suited. In fact, you have to go in suits because it shows that you are, when you get that job, if you go for official occasion, you're able to dress for meet the requirement. That is something that I agree with, because now we all don't change to the Good Luck Jonathan suit, which is now official because I have a lot of Good Luck Jonathan suits. Even when I go abroad now, when I go to conferences, I wear them. It's similar like how the Indian then get their own. But we get with Good Luck Jonathan suit. And I see now understand that issue for politicians. If you're not Muslim, you go in your kaftan. The interview in a public service commission, you submit all your documents, which are verifiable. So one of the shocking things we come out of this is out of the 18,000 public servants, only 1,300 have submitted either a degree or diploma. And even the one that have submitted has not been verified. So that, in a way, it resonates in the type of service we get from people in our public service. Because these public servants, they're all over every ministry, civil service, they're all over. So you're talking about people dealing with issues for which they are not academically or technically competent, which shows the state of our governance system and institution. So in future, and I will get again, if we get Mada Bio Mark II, then come back with free quality education. And he aligned that with human capital development. We get the other side, we then say the tribe can take power. These are the institutions we should be concerned with. These are the changes. I worked in the civil service in Sierra Leone, although in a technical capacity. I worked in public service in the UK. The permanent secretary of the ministries, when I was in the committee, when with the oversight committee, we look at these government ministries and departments. The permanent secretary is the most powerful man and an advisor. When a minister appears before a committee, he has competent men and women to guide him when he's been cross-examined. If we ask for any information, that's why you talk about subpoena. You can subpoena documents. If we ask for any information at the time, we are the technical side with the MPs and we provide them guidance. So if they ask for any document, you not get them. The committee will make you tell them when that document they will be available, the exact date, and you for produce them. So we need a lot for clear our public service, not just the fake degree. So institution, report after report has talked about institutional lapses. So as we go forward, whatever government they come in power, let us get dedicated men and women who will produce good institutions and people get job on merit. And as President Obama said, Africa does not need strong leaders. Africa needs strong institutions. So that is what we need in Sierra Leone. And going forward, we hope that the politicians from all hue and cry and color will start telling us, the people of Sierra Leone, how they can improve these institutions. The people who will be running these institutions, and how they will provide quality service for people there. Whether you go for driving license, or you go for passport, or you go register your business, or you go for you plan for bill you also. Now all these two they talk of. So my family are glad when I don't listen to me. This is my last word. And unless my colleague get anything for say, I think I'm most wishing a pleasant week. And hope so, and I will join me back next week as usual. We'll get a special guest and a special surprise for you, which we would announce. So thank you very much and have a blessed week. For them, the way they are Muslim, we know say that they come to the end of Ramadan, the holy month. We wish you success and as you don't dedicate in a life to God, let it be say what you pray for and fast for. Let it make you not only good citizens, but not to every year for the fast and till they tell God thank you. We fast month done, as I hear in a social media now. So man say you wait till fast month that they begin cost mommy cost. So that fast the way fast useless. Yeah. So not to wait fast month done, you begin cheat your neighbor. So you fast useless. Now munafiki. Me na fulatong boy. We na Christmas. We know about that. So I tell you thank you as we look forward to the glorious end of Ramadan and Eid al-Fitr. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mengot. And thank you very much, listeners. And wish you a very happy coming week. And of course, we will have had the Eid to commemorate just before Sunday. So with that in mind, I wish you a Eid Mubarak. Thank you very much. Good night.